Hi, Toni Newman here, and welcome to That's a Great Question. And today's question comes from Steve, who lives in Toronto. Thank you, Steve, for sending in your question. And Steve asks, how do you convince people they need something when they don't know they need it? And Steve, that is indeed a very great question. And we're going to start by looking at a couple of words that are actually in the question. And the first word I want to look at is the word need. So here's the thing. We would like to believe that all of our customers need everything we sell. But the reality is that maybe they don't. And so this is the first question you need to ask yourself is, do your customers really need what you're selling? Or do you want them to want what you're selling? And let me explain why this makes a difference. Imagine that I go into a store and I see a jacket. And it's a really nice jacket. And I really like it, and it's a little pricey. In that situation, the sales girl and I both know, I don't need that jacket. I don't need that jacket, but I want that jacket. And so the job that the sales girl has in that moment is to convince me I can't live without the jacket. Now, that's a very different approach from a situation, for example, I need a job. I need a job because without a job, I don't have the money to feed my kids, or I don't have the money to pay the mortgage. That's a need. And the difference is that want is based on desire and need is based on the fact that there's a negative consequence if I don't find what it is I'm looking for. And so that may sound like a small distinction, but we always need to know in terms of what we're selling, what is a want and what is a need, because essentially we're going to approach our customers in a different way based upon that information. So for the purposes of today, Steve, I'm going to assume that your customers really do need what you're selling, that they're going to lose market share or gain weight, or I don't know what you do, Steve, but there is some dire consequence that is going to happen if they don't find a solution to their problem. And then your job is to convince those people that you are the right solution. But now I'm going to go back to the word convince, because I'm going to ask all of us when we're thinking about this question to make a slight mindset shift. And that is, convince implies that we're right, they're wrong, and that we need to switch them to our opinion. We're convincing somebody. It's a one-way street. Actually, what we need to do is influence. And that's a very different word, and it's a very different process. Because if somebody isn't buying your products or services, Steve, it's probably because they don't see the value. They have a default perception of the value of whatever it is that you do. And so your job is to influence that perception of value. Your job is to shift that perception of value from whatever their default is to a perception that's a lot better for you and for your business. So let me give you a quick example. And let me just say, but when the Apple Watch came out, and I have to admit to this day, when I think about the Apple Watch, what I think is, that's a waste of money. I think it doesn't look great. I think it's kind of flashy. When I see people with them on, I think, what the heck are they trying to prove? There is nothing I need about an Apple Watch. There's nothing I even want about an Apple Watch. So for example, Steve, if you were selling Apple Watches, you would need to know that that's my default mindset. You can't shift my mindset. You can't shift my perception of value until you actually know what my perception of the value of whatever it is you're selling is. So that's step number one. You need to find out why your customers aren't buying whatever it is you're selling. You need to find out what their default mindset is with regard to your products and services. And then comes the big job. You need to shift that perception of value. And how do you shift that perception of value? You need to create innovative experiences that demonstrate the value of whatever it is that you're trying to sell. Because here's the bottom line, Steve. If you can't demonstrate the value of your products and services to your target market in a way that dramatically differentiates you from your competition and justifies the investment that you are asking your customers to make, then Steve, you leave them no choice but to make their decision based on their existing default mindset, or even worse, on price. It is your job to demonstrate the value of your products and services to your customers. Now, the way we do that is a technique called Show Me the Money. And if you go to our website, we're going to put a link here. If you go to our website, there's an article and I believe a podcast on the details of Show Me the Money. But here's the Reader's Digest version. You can create an experience that demonstrates one of four things to shift a perception of value. First, you can create an experience that demonstrates the consequences of inaction. What will happen if the client doesn't use your product or service? The second thing is you could demonstrate clearly the benefits of your products or services. The third thing that you could demonstrate is you could bring to life the pain or problem that they need to solve. And the fourth thing you could demonstrate is actually create an experience that shows them the behavior that you are trying to encourage. So go to the website, check out the article. There's a lot more information there. So thank you for sending in your question, Steve. It was a really great question. If you have a great question, you can always email it to the address that appears on the screen. And hopefully we can do a video that will help you answer your great question. Thanks for stopping by. I hope to see you again in another episode of That's a Great Question.